I found my book. Oh my god. Okay, so we have 97, 145. I can't do math. I can't do math. I'm bad at math. Math makes me cry. We have two, three, four. Fuck. Stop that. I'm trying to figure out how many more chapters we have. Oh, chapter 19 is just really long, I guess. We have like 4 chapters ish. Hi, Anja. Hi, sweetie. Hi. I, it's, it does that book thing where you're like, I just want to count 10 pages. I got 27. So, we have an amount of pages left. I'm hoping that this can be like the final part because I want to get to something else. It's very interesting. I I checked out a book from the library and they have these like seasonal things where they stack a bunch of books of a similar genre together, but you don't get to read the back of it until you check it out. It's very strategic and I get intrigued by it. One of those books, it's romance novels, obviously, because it's winter time. Get hot on cold winter nights or what the fuck ever. And one of the characters, the love interest, is named Sloane Outlaw. So I wanted to like get into that shit. Cause oh my god, who the fuck? I was talking to somebody about this and I was like, if this is not a romance novel parody or actually written by like a 15-year-old girl, there is no reason for this dude to be named Sloane Outlaw. I'm really hoping that we like find out that it's just a stupid nickname. Or probably not. It's probably gonna be Sloane Outlaw, lawyer in practice. Yeah. Wait, does that mean he's the defense or the prosecutor? I wanna say defense. Or like he's called outlaw because he is out of law because it's technically illegal for him to practice because he lost his certification. He never passed the bar. He's one of those I I practice law. I practice it sometimes. I don't actually do it because it's not legal for me, but I practice. I dabble in. Yes. Whatever side his shadow is on, he's like, um, oh god, I can't. Okay. Now I'm thinking of Blazing Saddles, which is not. That's a different thing. That's a different thing entirely. So let's just. Also, I don't know which mask is creepier. Yes, I do. It's the one with the long nose, but this one is also not ideal. Like, like low key giving me that like the professor. It's the Brokeback Mountain Part 2, Brokeback Divorce. And they have to hire a lawyer. And then they all get in the tent with the lawyer. Thank you. It is. It gets worse. It is low key. It's atrocious. My sister has given it a scale. It's witch cackle, toddler choking on a bagel, moose. So that's there's a whole range, and it's all bad. But it's like my laugh makes other people laugh, and I'm okay with it. So like, that's one of the. If I read something, I'm gonna do a different stream where I read like stuff on Tumblr, and it'll be interesting because there's also like there's a honk in there there's like a honk, there will be a scale. It'll start here and go all the way down here, and then you'll have to ask, are you okay? Should I call a hospital? Yes. Okay. We're starting now. I'm sorry. Delayed. It's the ADD or the autism. I can never tell. The unemployed of all midnight Europe shivered in their stone sleep and came awake. Which is to say that all the old beasts, all the old tales, all the old nightmares, all the old unused demons put by, and witches left in the lurch, quaked at the call, reared at the whistle, trembled at the summons, and in dust devils of propulsion skimmed down the roads, flitted skies, buckshot through shaken trees, forded streams, swam rivers, pierced clouds, and arrived. I almost want to do like a poll, which is the longest goddamn sentence in this whole book, but it's too late for that. We're already 16 chapters in. Which is still to say that all the dead statues and idols and semi-gods and demigods of Europe lying like a dreadful snow all about, abandoned in ruins, gave a blink and start and came as salamanders on the road, or bats in skies, or dingoes in the brush. They flew, they galloped, they skittered. To the general excitement and amazement and much babbling, like you're babbling, shout from the fringe of boys leaning out, Moundshroud leaning with them as the mobs of strange beasts came from north, south, east, west, to panic at the gates and wait for whistles. "Shall we drop a white-hot boiling lead down on them?" The boys saw Moundshroud smile. "Heck no," said Tom. "Hunchback already did that years ago." "Damn, Hunchback don't play." "Well then, no burning lava. So shall we whistle them up?" They all whistled. And obedient to summons, the mobs, the flocks, the prides, the crush, the collection, the raving flux of monsters, beasts, vices rampant, virtues gone sour, squad, discarded saints, misguided prides. I'm gonna let that joke go. Hollowed pomps oozed, slid, suckered, pelted, ran bold and right up the sides of Notre Dame. In a flood tide of nightmare, in a tidal wave of outcry and shamble. I'm not giving you a joke. Misguided prides is when I try to flirt with a girl and then she tells me that she has a boyfriend. Or when I'm not flirting with a girl and she thinks I'm flirting with her, and then I have to relive that moment over and over again for the next 5 years and be like, that's missed an opportunity. I misguided my pride. I should have flirted. Okay. Hollow pomps oozed, slid, suckered, pelted, ran bold and right up the sides of Notre Dame. I already read that part. In a flood tide of nightmare, in a tidal wave of outcry and shamble, they inundated the cathedral to crust themselves on every pinion and upthrust stone. Some people hate the word moist. I don't like the word crust. Okay? So here ran pigs, and there climbed Satan's goats, and yet another wall knew devils which recarved themselves along the way, dropped horns and grew new ones, shaved beards to sprout tendril earthworm mustaches. Ew. Sometimes a swarm of only masks and faces scuttled up the walls and took the buttress heights, carried by an army of crayfish and wobbly, crotchety lobsters. Hate lobsters. I love lobsters. I hate the food. Don't mix that up. Right. Buttress. It is a female butt is a buttress. A female butter is also a butteress. That's butter. S. Buttress. Spelling. Here came the heads of gorillas, full of sin and teeth, like the Grinch. There came men's heads with sausages in their mouths. Okay. Beyond danced the mask of a... I know, right? Saucy. Sausagey. Sausagey. Okay. Beyond danced the mask of a fool upheld by a spider that knew ballet. I want to see. That's an interesting notion. I wish I could animate because I would love to see a spider that knows ballet. I would love to see that. If I whip my dick out, I'll try to. That's not that phrasing. If I get my dick out, I'll draw it, but. So much was going on that Tom said, "My gosh, so much is going on." That's like the narrator saying, the narrator narrated. "And more to come," said Moundshroud. For now that Notre Dame was infested with various speets and spidering leers and gloms and masks, why, here came dragons chasing children, and whales swallowing Jonahs, and chariots chock full of skulls and bones. Acrobats and tumblers, yanked out of shape by demi-demons, limped and fell in strange postures to freeze on the roof. Yeah, right, Captain. Excuse me. That's his full name. Captain Obvious, it's Captain Tom Obvious. Thank you. Thank you. All accompanied by pigs with harps and sows and with piccolos and dogs playing bagpipes. I love bagpipes. So the music itself helped charm and pull new mobs of grotesques up the walls to be trapped and caught forever in sockets of stone. Here an ape plucked a lyre. There floundered a woman with a fish's tail. Now a sphinx flew out of the night, shed its wings, and became woman and lion, half and half, settled to snooze away the centuries in the shadow and sound of bells. Captain Thomas Gerald Obvious, the third. I am the third son. There are three of us. Generation, not the third son. I'm an idiot. Why, what are those? Cried Tom the Obvious. Moundshroud, leaning over, gave a snort. Why, those are sins, boys, and nondescripts. There crawls the worm of conscience. Is that anything like the anxiety mosquito? They looked to see it crawl. It crawled very fine. Now, whispered Moundshroud softly, settle, slumber, sleep. Oh my God. Speaking of people giving their children all the same name, that's like a generational thing for my family. My mom was the last person to do it, I think. Her and her sister, Carrie and Sherry, and their middle names rhyme. Her grandma, Nuala and Beulah. Nuala and Beulah. Who does that? Who does that? Who does that? Thankfully, I don't know of anybody else that, yeah. I don't know of anybody else in our family, actually, that did that besides my great-grandma's parents and my grandma. Huh. I'd like to do the research and see if that was like a every other generation thing, or just those two individual people, great-grandma's mom and my grandma, if it was just two people and everybody else was like, dude, no, we're not doing that. Okay. Back to the topic at hand. And the flocks of strange creatures turned about 3 times like evil dogs and lay down. All beasts took root. All grimaces froze to stone. All cries faded. The moon shadowed and lit the gargoyles of Notre Dame. Does it make sense, Tom? Sure. All the old gods, all the old dreams, all the old nightmares, all the old ideas with nothing to do, out of work. We gave them work. We called them here. And here they will remain for centuries, right? Right. They looked down over the rim. There was a mob of beasts on the east battlement, the crowd of sins on the west, a surge of nightmares on the south, and a fine scuttle of unnamed vices and ill-kept virtues in the north. I, said Tom, proud of this night's work, I wouldn't mind living here. Me too, fuck. The wind crooned in the mouths of the beasts. Their fangs hissed and whistled. Much thanks. It's Gimli. It's Gimli. Thank you. Son of Gloin. Yeah, it's Gimli. It's like a cross between Gimli and the Green Man. Yeah. That's okay. I do not mind. All caps is just enthusiasm. All caps is just enthusiasm. I almost called him Tom Skeleton again. Jehoshaphat, said Tom's skeleton on the parapet. We whistled all the stone griffins and demons here. Now Pipkin's lost again. This motherfucker. This lost ass. I keep forgetting that the story is about him because they keep, like, they do all this other shit, and then it's like, oh yeah, this story's about losing Pipkin. That's the whole fucking plot. That's the reason we're doing this. Now Pipkin's lost again. I was thinking, why can't we whistle him? Because that is rude. It's terribly rude. We don't catcall in this stream. Thank you very much. We call to cats, but we don't catcall. It's rude. Don't whistle at people. Don't whistle at people. Moundshroud laughed so his cane boomed on the night wind, and his dry bones jangled inside his skin. Boys, look around. He's still here. Where? Here, mourned a small, faraway voice. The boys crickled their spines, looking over the parapet, cracked their necks, staring up. Look and find, lads. Hide and seek. And even in seeking, they could not help but enjoy once more the turbulent slates of the cathedral, all fringed with horrors, and deliciously ugly with trapped beasts. Where was Pipkin among all those dark sea creatures with gills gaped open like mouths for an eternal gasp and sigh? Where among all these lovely chiseled nightmares cut from the gallstones of night lurks and monsters cracked out of earthquakes, vomited up from mad volcanoes which cooled themselves to frights and deliriums? Here, wailed a far, small, familiar voice again. There we go. Sorry. And way down on a ledge halfway to the earth, boys. Squinting. Oh, sorry. And way down on a ledge halfway to the earth, the boys, squinting, thought they saw one small, round, beautiful angel devil face with a familiar eye, a familiar nose, a friendly and familiar mouth. Pipkin! Shouting, they ran down stairways along dark corridors until they reached a ledge. Far out there on the windy air, above a very narrow walkway indeed, was that small face, lovely among so much ugliness. Tom went first, not looking down, spread-eagling himself. Ralph followed, the rest inching along a line. The phrase spread eagle gives me blah. Just blah. I don't know why. I just blah. Watch out, Tom, don't fall. I'm not falling. Here's Pip. And there he was, standing in a line directly under the outthrust stone mask, the bust, the head of a gargoyle. They looked up at that mighty fine profile, that great nub nose, that unbearded cheek, that fuzzy cap of marbled hair. Pipkin. Pip, for cry-eye, what are you doing here? Pip said nothing. His mouth was cut stone. Oh, it's just a rock, said Ralph. Just a gargoyle carved here a long time ago. Looks like Pipkin. No, I heard him call. But how? And then the wind gave them an answer. It blew around the high corners of Notre Dame. It fluted in the ears and piped out the gaping mouths of the gargoyles. Ah, whispered Pipkin's voice. Yay! Hi, welcome back. Also, you came back just in time for this little picture. That's Pipkin. And there's this guy. Bleh. 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 The hair stood up on the back of their necks. Ooh, murmured the stone mouth. Listen, there it is! Shut up! Cried Tom. Pip, next time the wind blows, tell us how. Tell us, how do we help? What got you here? How do we get you down? Silence. The boys clung to the rock cliff face of the great cathedral. Then another swoop of wind sucked by, drew their breaths, and whistled in the carved stone boy's teeth. One, said Pipkin's voice. Question, whispered Pip's voice again after a pause. Silence. More wind. Ada. The boys waited. Time. One question at a time, translated Tom. The boys hooted with laughter. That was Pip, all right. Okay. Tom gathered his spit. Ew. What are you doing up here? The wind blew sadly, and the voice spoke as from deep in an old well. Been so many places in just a few hours. The boys waited, grinding their teeth. Speak up, Pipkin! The wind came back to mourn in the open stone mouth, but the wind had died. It began to rain, and this was best of all, for the raindrops ran cold in Pipkin's stone ears and out along his nose, and fountained from his marble mouth so that he began to utter syllables in liquid tongues, with clear, cold rainwater words. Hey! This is better! He spouted mist. He sprayed quick rain. You should have been where I've been. Gosh, I was buried for a mummy. I was trapped in a dog. We guessed that was you, Pipkin. And now here, said the rain in the ear, the rain in the nose, the rain in the clear, dripping marble mouth. Gosh, golly, funny, strange, inside this rock with all these devils and demons for pals, and 10 minutes from now, who knows where I'll be? Higher up or buried deep? Where, Pipkin? The boys jostled. The rain squalled and beat them so they almost tilted and fell off the ledge. Are you dead, Pipkin? No, not yet, said the cold rain in his mouth. Part of me in a hospital a long way off home. Part of me in that old Egyptian tomb. Part of me in the grass in England. Part of me here. Part of me in a worse place. Where? I don't know. Oh gosh. 1 minute I'm yelling laughs, the next I'm scared. Just now, this very minute, I guess. I know, I'm scared. Help me, guys, help, oh, please. Yeah, literally, it does not sound... Sounds pretty not living. Ugh. Gotta get some water in my body before I do Mound Shroud's voice again, because I... Rain poured out his eyes like tears. Aw. Aw. The boys reached up to touch Pipkin's chin as best they could, but before they could touch, a lightning bolt struck out of the sky. It flashed blue and white. The entire cathedral shook. The boys had to grab demon's horns and angel's wings on either side so as not to be knocked off. Thunder and smoke, and a great scattering of rock and stone. Pipkin's face was gone. Oh, knocked off by the lightning bolt. It fell down through space to shatter the ground below. No! No! Why? Why? Pipkin! But there below on the cathedral porch stones were only flinty fire sparks blowing away, and a fine gargoyle dust. Oh. Nose, chin, stone lip, hard cheek, bright eye, carved fine ear, all whipped away on the wind and chaff and shrapnel dust. God damn it. They saw something like a spirit smoke, a bloom of gunpowder powder blowing, drifting south and west. Mexico. Mound Shroud, one of the few men in all the world who knew how to utter. uttered the word. Mexico? I don't bark. Gargoyle does. Oh, no. Hold on. My feelings. Okay, it's fine. I'm fine. You're fine. We're all fine. We're fine. We're fine. Whew. Mexico? Asked Tom. The last grand travel of this night, said Mel. Of course they're gonna end. Yeah, we're not fucking fine. Okay. We're having a moment, okay, guys? We're having a moment. Alright, here we go. Here we go. And of course they're gonna end on Day of the Dead. You build up. And that is where you end, is Day of the Dead. The most significant form of all, with the skeleton, that's where you end. That is the encore, that is the peak, that is, Alright. Day of the Dead, bitch. Okay. Sorry. That was intense. I have intense feelings about the Day of the Dead. Yes. Okay. The last grand travel of this night, said Moundshroud, still uttering, savoring the syllables. Whistle, boys. Scream like tigers. Cry like panthers. Shriek like carnivore. Scream, cry, shriek? Same. Reassemble the kite, lads. The kite of autumn. Paste back the fangs and fiery eyes and bloody talons. Yell the wind to sew it all together and ride us high and long and last. Bray, boys. Whimper, trumpet, shout. The boys hesitated. Moundshroud ran along the ledge like someone racketing a picket fence. He knocked each boy with his knee and elbow. The boys fell, and falling gave each his particular whimp, shriek, or scream. Plummeting down through cold space, they felt the tail of a murderous peacock. Yeah. If you still had your goddamn witch brooms, if you still believed in fairies, your fucking brooms wouldn't be dead, and you could use those, you silly bitches. Also, I would love to see a murderous peacock. That, like, I'm picturing it in my mind's eye, but I cannot do the art well enough to do what I have, what to do. I can't do what I see the sea. Which makes sense. Makes sense. Don't question me. 10,000 burning eyes came up, hovered suddenly around a windy corner of Gargoyle as the autumn kite, freshly assembled, broke their fall. They grabbed, they held to rim, to edge, to cross struts, to trap drum rattling papers, to bits and tatters and shreds of old meat breath lion mouth and stale blood tiger's maw. Here. Simon sort of says, hold on, I'm gonna. I had post-it notes. There they are. Or not. Where's my goddamn post-it notes? Where are my stinking heckin' post-it notes? It's fine. It's fine. I was gonna write something down, but fuck me, am I right? I wanna read that book. But I don't know what I'm supposed to post. That's. It's fine. I'll remember. No, I won't. I'll write it on the back of this one. Even though I'm currently using it. It's fine.
Pause for important writing things, please.
Ooh, no internet. That's That's... I was gonna say, it reminds me of when I lived in Camas, but we did have internet. B, it was 2004, so it wouldn't have mattered. Because we didn't use the internet that much. Our dad did. Yeah. Simon sort of says. If I'm able to find that book, do we want to read that on stream as well at some point? Yay or nay? Yay or nay? Alright. That is gonna have to... Oh, not even microwaves. I hate that. I mean, I don't actually use the microwave that often. I don't actually use microwaves that often. I prefer ovens because the texture of microwaves is wet. I do not like wet texture. So, but still, that sounds fucking awful, and I hate it a lot. Okay. Peacock. Oh, cool. Peacock. Hold on. Hold on. Sorry, I keep pausing. Occurrences keep occurring, yes? The baby likes to be involved.
Are you a big heckin' baby?
Are you a big heckin' baby? Uh-huh. Yeah, tell me how you're a big heckin' baby. Tell me about how you're a big heckin' baby. Come here.
Oh, come here. Come here. Oh. It's the baby. It's the baby. There you go. It's baby! Yay! It's baby.
His name is Zatara, by the way. Because I've never actually introduced him. His name is Zatara. And if you don't roll the R, you're saying it wrong. They held to rim, to edge, to cross struts, to trap drum rattling papers, to bits and tatters and shreds of old meat breath lion mouth and stale blood tiger's maw. Mountshroud leaped up to grab. This time he was the tail. Oh. There we go. The autumn kite hovered, waiting. 8 boys upon its billowing surf of teeth and eyes. Mountshroud turned to his ear. Hundreds of miles away, beggars ran down Irish roads, starving, asking for food from door to door. Their cries rose in the night. Fred Fryer, in his beggar's costume, heard, "That way! Let's fly there!" "No, no time. Listen." Thousands of miles away, there was a faint tap-hammering of dead-watch beetles ticking the night. If you've seen Practical Magic, you know what a dead-watch beetle is. The coffin makers of Mexico," Mountshroud smiled. "In the streets with their long boxes and nails and little hammers, tapping, tapping." You just got in here. My mom calls him a penis because he's in, out, in, out, in, out. So, like, yeah, quit being a penis. Stay in here for a minute. Fuck's sake. "Pipkin?" whispered the boys. "We hear," said Mountshroud. "And to Mexico we go." You're welcome. It's from Count of Monte Cristo. It's my favorite line in the whole movie. So, yeah. One of my favorite lines. It's the one I go to most. Anyway, the autumn kite boomed them away on a 1,000-foot tidal wave of wind. The gargoyles, fluting in their stone nostrils, gaped their marble lips, used that same wind to wail them farewell. This one... Tell me, That don't look like a lady ass sitting in a swing right there. That is hold on, a woman's ass, and she's sitting in a swing, and she's like, wee. She's trying to get air. She's trying to get air. That's a woman's ass. Okay? You can't lie to me. You can't lie to me and tell me that ain't no woman ass. Okay. Alright. Alright. They hung above Mexico like a lady's ass. They hung above an island in that lake in Mexico. Yeah, right. Wow. Sometimes, like, if you're not confusing us and making us think that these boys are being shredded to literal pieces, you've given us women's asses. And I'm more than okay with that. But, like, I see you. I see you, Halloween tree. They hung above Mexico. They hung above an island in that lake in Mexico. They heard dogs barking in the night far below. They saw a few boats on the moonlit lake moving like water insects. They heard a guitar playing and a man singing in a high, sad voice. Probably. Hey, baby. A long way across the dark borders of land in the United States, packs of children, mobs of dogs ran laughing, barking, knocking from door to door, their hands full of sweet bags. Their hands full of sweet bags of treasure, wild with joy on Halloween night. But here, whispered Tom.
Here what?
Said Maltrout, hovering at his elbow. Oh, why, here.
And down through all of South America?
Yes, south, here and south. All the cemeteries, all the graveyards are full of candlelight, Tom thought. 1,000 candles in this cemetery, 100 candles in that graveyard, 10,000 small flickering lights farther up 100 miles, 5,000 miles down to the very tip of Argentina. Is that the way they celebrate
El Dia de los Muertos. How's your grade school Spanish, Tom?
the Day of the Dead ones?
Caramba, sí! Kite, Disassemble.
Is that like Transformers roll out? Or Avengers assemble? Anyway. I'm picturing a... Hold on. It's not. Hello? There we go. Right? I'm using a webcam, so it's like, it's not ideal, but I don't have $100, so the webcam is what I will use. Also, I'm picturing a combination of Avengers and oh god, I can't remember what it was. It was Power Rangers or something where they all they form together to make a big plane. Like they have machines that form together to make a big plane. So I'm picturing the Avengers. Like I'm picturing the Avengers coming together to form a kite. Avengers assemble, form of kite. Form of kite, shape of Halloween. Okay. I'm fine. Ooh. Swooping down, the kite flew apart for a final time. The boys tumbled on the stony shore of the quiet lake. Mists hung over the waters. Far across the lake they could see an unlit tomb yard. There were, as yet, no candles burning in it. Out of the mists, a dugout canoe moved silently without oars, as if the tide touched it across the waters. A tall gray figure in a gray winding sheet stood motionless in one end of the boat, winding. Oh my god. The boat nudged the grassy shore softly. The boys gasped, for, as far as they could tell, only darkness was cupped inside the hood of the shrouded figure. Mr. Mr. Mountroud? They knew it had to be him, but he said nothing. Only the faintest firefly of a grin flickered within the cowl. A bony hand gestured. The boys tumbled into the boat. "Shh," whispered a voice from the empty hood. The figure gestured again, and touched by the wind, they blew across the dark waters under a night sky filled with the billion never-before-seen fires of the stars. Far off on that dark island, there was a prickle of guitar sound. A single candle was lit in the graveyard. Somewhere, someone blew a musical sound on a flute. Another candle was lit among the new tombstones. Someone sang a single word of a song. A third candle was touched to life by a flaming match. And the faster the boat moved, the more guitar notes sounded, and the more candles were lit high among the mounds until, or on the stony hills, 12, 100, 1,000 candles flared until it looked as if the great Andromeda star cluster had fallen out of the sky and tilted itself to rest here in the middle of the almost midnight Mexico.
Love you too. I'll see you later. The rest of this will be on the YouTubes.
A guitar called to them. Sorry. The boat struck the shore. The boys, surprised, fell out. They spun about, but Mountroud was gone. Only his winding sheet lay empty in the boat. A guitar called to them. A voice sang to them. A road like a river of white stones and white rocks led up through the town that was like a graveyard, to the graveyard that was like a town. For there were no people in the town. The boys reached the low wall of the graveyard and then hung huge lacework iron gates. They took hold of the iron rungs and stared in.
"Why," gasped Tom, "I never ever seen the like." 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. Freedom. Freedom.
The cat wanted to escape, and the cat will ask for entrance again. In like 5 minutes. Unless I'm wrong. And he does not. I don't know why I'm saying it like this. For now they knew why the town was empty. Because the graveyard was full. By every grave was a woman kneeling to place gardenias or azaleas or marigolds in a frame upon the stone. I don't know if you can hear that, but in Washington we get ice mostly. Like we do get snow, but it turns to like ice. So now it's aggressive snow. It's snow with a score to settle, and if you go out there, you will be attacked, and it sounds terrible and loud, and it scares my cat. Or it's the big cotton stuff. You get two. You get two kinds. You get the ice and the big cotton stuff. You don't get anything in between. Actually, that's a lie. Sometimes it's wet. Okay. By every grave knelt a daughter who was lighting a new candle, or lighting a candle that had just blown out. By every grave was a quiet boy with bright brown eyes, and in one hand a small papier-mâché funeral parade glued to a shingle, and in the other hand a papier-mâché skeleton head, which rattled with rice or nuts inside. "Look," whispered Tom. There were hundreds of graves. There were hundreds of women. There were hundreds of daughters. There were hundreds of sons. And hundreds upon thousands of candles. The whole graveyard was one swarm of candle shine, as if a population of fireflies had heard of a grand conglomeration, and had flown here to settle in and flame upon the stones, and light the brown faces and the dark eyes and the black hair. "Boy," said Tom, half to himself, "at home we never go to the graveyard except maybe Memorial Day, once a year. And then at high noon, full sun, no fun. This is fun." "Sure!" Whisper yelled everyone. "Mexican Halloweens are better than ours." "It's not Halloween, it's Dia de los Muertos." Mountroud just told you it's Dia de los Muertos. It's not Halloween. It's not the same. For on every grave were plates of cookies shaped like funeral priests or skeletons or ghosts waiting to be nibbled by living people? Or by ghosts that might come along toward dawn, hungry and forlorn. No one knew. No one said. And each boy inside the graveyard, next to his sister and mother, put down the miniature funeral on the grave. And they could see the tiny candy person inside the tiny wooden coffin placed before a tiny altar with tiny candles. And around the tiny coffin stood tiny altar boys with peanuts for heads and eyes painted on the peanut shells. And before the altar stood a priest with a corn nut for a head and a walnut for a stomach. And on the altar was a photograph of a person in a coffin. A real person once, remembered now. "Better and still better," whispered Ralph. "Cuervos!" sang a far voice upon the hill. Inside the graveyard, voices echoed the song. Leaning against the graveyard walls, some with guitars in their hands or bottles, were the men of the village. "Cuervos de los muertos!" sang the faraway voice. "Cuervos de los muertos!" sang the men in the shadows inside the gate. "Skulls," translated Tom. "The skulls of the dead." "Skulls." "No, skulls. Sweet sugar skulls, sweet candy skulls, the skulls of the dead ones," sang the voice, coming close now. And down the hill, treading softly in shadow, came a hunchback vendor of skulls. "No, not hunched," said Tom, half aloud. "A whole load of skulls on his back," cried Ralph. "Sweet skulls, sweet rice, sweet white crystal sugar candy skulls," sang the vendor, his face hidden under a vast sombrero. "Oh, sorry." But it was Moundshroud's voice that sweetly piped. And carried from a long bamboo over his shoulder, hung on black threads, were dozens and scores of sugar skulls as big as their own heads, and each skull was inscribed. "Names! Names!" sang the old vendor. "Tell me your name, I give you your skull." "Tom," said Tom. The old man plucked forth a skull. On it in huge letters was written, "Tom." Tom took and held his own name, his own sweet, edible skull in his fingers. "Ralph!" And a skull with the name Ralph written on it was tossed forth. Ralph caught it, laughing. In a swift game, the bony hand tossed white skull after skull, sweetly on the cool air. "Henry Hank! Fred! George! Hackles! J.J. Wally!" The boys, bombarded, squealed and danced about, pelted with their own skulls and their own proud names sugar-encrusted upon each white brow of the skulls. They caught and...
"We!" "Yes?" "It's the other boy." "It's the other boy." "Pepper! Come here. Come on. Come here. Pemberton. Pembles. Come here. Come here. You just wanted to see what I was doing? You just wanted to see what I was doing? Look. Come here. Oh, come here. Oh, come here. Oh, it's the boy and his little winter coat. It's the boy in his winter coat. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness.
You can't. We've been over this. You're not allowed to lick inside my mouth. That's gross. That's gross. Mwah. Okay. Nope. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for kisses.
All right. You gonna hang? You gonna hang? All right. You gonna hang. You gonna hang out. All right. Cool. They stood, mouths wide open, staring at the sugary death sweets in their gummy hands. Ew, gummy. And from within the graveyard, way high, male soprano voices sang, Roberto, Maria, Conchita, Thomas. Calavera, Calavera, sweet candy bones to eat. Your name on the snow-white sweet skull, you hurry down the street. You buy from the piled high white hills in the square. Buy and eat, chew your name, what a treat! The boys lifted the sweet skulls in their fingers. Bite the T and the O and the M, Tom. Chew on the H, swallow A, digest N, choke on K, Hank. Oh. That's kind of aggressive. Choke on the K? That's kind of aggressive. Their mouths watered. But was it poison they held? Halloween tree, you don't fuck around. You're just like, this is super lighthearted. And then they were eviscerated and their spines were broken. God. Would you guess such happiness, such joy, as each boy dines on darkness, makes a meal of the night? What delight! Snap a bite! Go ahead and munch that fine candy head. The boys tapped the sweet candy names to their lips and were about to take a bite when, Ole! A mob of Mexican boys ran up yelling their names, seizing his skulls. Thomas! And Tom saw Thomas run off with his named skull. Hey, said Tom. He sort of looked like me. Did he? Said the vendor of skulls. Enrique! Shouted a small Indian boy, seizing Henry Hank's skull. Enrique pelted down the hill. He looked like me, said Henry Hank. He did, said Mountshroud. Quick, boys, see what they're up to. Hold on to your sweet craniums and get! The boys jumped. For at that very moment, an explosion hit the streets below in the town. Then another explosion, and another. Fireworks! The boys took a last look in the flowers, the graves, cookies, foods, skulls upon graves, miniature funerals with miniature bodies and coffins, at candles, crouched women, lonely boys, girls, men, then whirled and exploded down the hill toward the fireworks. Into the plaza, Tom and Ralph and all the other costume boys raced panting. They jolted to a halt and danced about as 1,000 miniature firecrackers banged around their shoes. The lights were on. Suddenly, the shops were open. And Thomas and Jose Juan and Enrique were lighting and tossing the firecrackers with yells. Hey, Tom! From me! Thomas! Tom saw his own eyes glinting from the wild boy's face. Hey, Henry! This is from Enrique! Bang! JJ! This is bang! From Jose Juan! And this is the best Halloween of all! Said Tom. And it was. Again, it's Dia de los Muertos. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. For never in their wild travels had so much happened to be seen, smelled, touched. In every alley and door and window were mounds of sugar skulls with beautiful names. From every alley came the tap-tap of death-watch beetle coffin makers, nailing, hammering, tapping coffin lids like wooden drums in the night. On every corner were stacks of newspapers with pictures of the mayor and his body painted in like a skeleton, or the president and his body all bones, or the loveliest maiden dressed like a xylophone and death playing a tune on her musical ribs. Calavera! 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 The song drifted down the hill. See the politicians buried in the news. Rest in peach beneath their names. Such is fame. See the skeletons juggling, standing high, on each other's shoulders, preaching sermons, wrestling, playing soccer. Little runners, little jumpers, little skeletons that leap about and fall. Did you ever dream that death would be whittled down so very small? And the song was true. Wherever the boys looked were the miniature acrobats, trapeze performers, basketball players, priests, jugglers, tumblers. But all were skeletons, hand to hand, bony, shoulder to shoulder, and all small enough for you to carry in your fingers. And over there in a window was a whole microscopic jazz band with a skeleton trumpeter and a skeleton drummer and a skeleton playing a tuba no bigger than a soup spoon and a skeleton conductor with a bright cap on his head and a baton in his hand and tiny music pouring out of tiny horns. Never before had the boys seen so many bones. Bones! Ha! Laughed everyone. Oh, lovely bones! The song began to fade. Hold the dark holiday in your palms. Bite it, swallow it, and survive. Come out the far black tunnel of El Dia de Muerte, and be glad, oh so glad you are, alive! Calavera! Calavera! The newspapers, bordered in black, blew away in white funerals on the wind. The Mexican boys ran away up the hill to their families. "Oh, strange, funny, strange," whispered Tom. "What?" said Ralph at his elbow. "Up in Illinois, we've forgotten what it's all about. I mean the dead up in our town. Tonight, heck, they're forgotten. Nobody remembers. Nobody cares. Nobody goes to sit and talk to them. Boy, that's lonely. That's really sad. But here, why, shucks." I love it when someone says shucks. I don't know why. Shucks. "It's both happy and sad. It's all firecrackers and skeleton toys down here in the plaza. And up in that graveyard now are all the Mexican dead folks with the families visiting, and flowers and candles and singing and candy. I mean, it's almost like Thanksgiving." Sure. Depends on your Thanksgiving, depends on your family, depends on whether you have to pretend you're busy or not. "And everyone sat down to dinner, but only half the people able to eat. But that's no mind. They're here. It's like holding hands at a seance with your friends, but some of the friends gone. Oh, heck, Ralph." "Yeah," said Ralph, nodding behind his mask. "Heck." "Look! Oh, look there!" said JJ. The boys looked. On top of a mound of white sugar skulls was one with the name Pipkin on it. Pipkin's sweet skull, but nowhere in all the explosions and dancing bones and flying skulls was there so much as one dust speck or whimper or shadow of Pip. They had grown so accustomed to Pip's to Pip's leaping up in fantastic surprises on the sides of Notre Dame, or weighted down in gold sarcophagi, that they had expected him, like a jack-in-the-box, to pop from a mound of sugar skulls, flap sheets in their faces, cry dirges. But no, suddenly, no Pip. No Pip at all. And maybe no Pip ever again. Don't say that! Don't say that! That's rude, and I hate you. The boys shivered. A cold wind blew fog up from the lake. See this? I don't know what it is about... Oh, do you want lap shape? He wants lap shape.
Ooh, there we go. Lap shape. He likes it when it's a triangle because the circle fits inside the triangle. Makes sense. It makes sense. Over the dark night street, around a corner. Oh, right, that's what I was going to show you. This mask reminds me of something. I don't know what. It's a little unnerving. I can't put my finger on it, but something like when there's a memory that you've forgotten and you're reminded of the memory, but you still don't know specifically what the memory is. That's this. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it's like... It's icking me. It is icking me right now, and I don't know what it is, but I know it's something from my childhood. I just can't put my finger on it, probably because it was so unnerving that I refused to actually keep it in my memory. But it's there. Moving on. Along the dark night street, around a corner, came a woman bearing over her shoulders twin scoops of mounded charcoals, burning. That's not safe. From these heaps of pink burning coals, they burn orange. I don't know what you're talking about. Firefly sparks scattered and blew in the wind. Where she passed on bare feet, she left a little trail of sparks which died. Without a word, shuffling, she went around another corner into an alley. Gone. After her came a man carrying on his head, lightly, a small coffin. It was a box made of plain white wood, nailed shut. On the sides and top of the box were pins, cheap silver rosettes, handmade silk and paper flowers. The boys stared as the funeral parade of two went by. Two, thought Tom. The man in the box, yes, and the thing inside the box. Oh, this is the lady. It looks like she's in space. Oh, hold on. This the lady, it looks like she's in space. You can't tell me that's not fucking space.
Celebrating
shit on the moon. The man, his face solemn, balancing the coffin on the top of his head, walked tall into the nearby church. Stuttered Tom. Was that Pip again inside that box?
What do you think, lad?
Said Moundshroud. I don't know, cried Tom. I only know I had enough. The night's been too long. I seen too much. I know everything. Gosh, everything. Oh, how hard it is to be a 10-year-old boy. As if I would know. Yeah, said everyone, clustering close, shivering. We've got to get home, don't we? What about Pipkin? Where is he? Is he alive or dead? Can we save him? Is he lost? Are we too late? What do we do? What? Cried everyone. And the same questions flew and burst from their mouths and welled in their eyes. They all took hold of Moundshroud as if to press the answer from him, yank it out of his elbows. What do we do?
To save Pipkin, one last thing. Look up in this tree.
Dangling from the tree were a dozen Halloween piñatas. Devils, ghosts, skulls, witches that swayed in the wind.
Break your piñata, boys.
Sticks were thrust in their hands.
Strike!
Yelling, they struck. The piñatas exploded. And from the skeleton piñata were 1,000 small skeleton leaves fell in a shower. They swarmed on Tom. The wind blew skeletons, leaves, and Tom away. And from the mummy piñata fell hundreds of frail Egyptian mummies, which rushed into the sky, Ralph with them. And so each boy struck and cracked and let down small vinegar gnat dancing images of himself, so that devils, witches, ghosts shrieked and seized, and all the boys and leaves went tumbling through the sky, with Moundshroud laughing after. They ricocheted in the final alleys of the town. They banged and skipped like stones across the lake waters, to land rolling in a jumble of knees and elbows on a yet farther hill. They sat up. They found themselves in the middle of an abandoned graveyard with no people, no lights. Only stones like immense wedding crates frosted with old moonlight. And as they watched, Moundshroud, landing light on his feet, in a swift, quiet motion, bent. He reached for an iron rung in the earth. He pulled. With a shriek of hinges, a trapdoor in the earth gaped wide. The boys came to stand at the edge of the big hole. Catacombs? Stuttered Tom.
Catacombs.
Moundshroud pointed. Stairs led into a dry dust earth. The boys swallowed hard. Is Pip down there?
Go bring him up, boys.
Is he alone down there?
No. Things are with him. Things.
Who goes first?
Not me.
Silence. Me, said Tom at last. He put his foot on the first step down. He sank into the earth. He took another step. Then suddenly he was gone. The others followed. They went down the steps in single file, and with each step down the dark got darker, and with each step down the silence grew more silent. And with each step down the night became deep as a well and very black indeed. And with each step down the shadows waited and seemed to lean from walls, and with each step down strange things seemed to smile at them from the long cave which waited below. Bats seemed to be hanging clustered just over their heads, squeaking so high you could not hear them. Only dogs might hear, have hysterics, jump out of their skins, and run off. With each step down, the town got further away, and the earth and all the nice people of the earth.
You had enough? We'll see your mommy. You gonna trade places?
I told you he'd be back. I told you he'd be back.
Wait.
All right.
Yes, Bubbo? Yes, sweet boy? My darling, my beloved, light of my life. What's up? A couple? Uppies? No? No uppies?
Nah, he's just gonna be like that. He got uppies on his own, sis. All right. Even the graveyard above seemed... Sorry? Hold on. With each step down the town got further away, and the earth, and all the nice people of the earth. Even the graveyard above seemed far away. They felt lonely. They felt so alone they wanted to cry. For each step down was a billion miles lost from life, and warm beds, and good candlelight, and mother's voices, and father's pipe smoke, and clearing his voice in the night, which made you feel good knowing he was there somewhere in the dark, alive and turning in his sleep, and able to hit anything with his fists if it had to be hit. Each step down, and at last, at the bottom of the stairs, they peered into a long cave, the long hall. And all the people were there, and very quiet. They had been quiet for a long time. Some of them had been quiet for 30 years. Some had been silent for 40 years. Some had been completely mum for 70 years.
There they are, said Tom. The mummies?
The mummies. A long line of them standing against the walls. 50 mummies standing against the right wall. 50 mummies standing against the left wall. And 4 mummies waiting at the far end in the dark. 104 dry as dust mummies, more alone than they ever felt in life. Abandoned here, left below, far from dog barks and fireflies and the sweet singing of men and guitars in the night.
Oh boy, said Tom. All those poor people. I heard of them.
What?
Their folks couldn't pay the rent on their graves, so the gravedigger dug up these people and put them down here. The earth is so dry it makes mummies out of them. And look, see how they're dressed.
The boys looked and saw that some of the ancient people were dressed like farmers, and some like peasant maids, some like businessmen in old dark suits, and one even like a bullfighter in his dusty suit of lights. But inside their suits were all thin bones and skin and spiderweb and dust that shook down through their ribs if you sneezed and trembled them.
What's that? What's what?
Everyone listened. Everyone listened. Sorry, my phone. They peered into the long vault. All the mummies looked back with empty eyes. All the mummies waited with empty hands. Someone was weeping at the far end of the hall. Came the sound.
Oh,
Came the crying. And the small voice wept.
That's Pip! Only heard him cry once, but that's him, Pipkin, and he's trapped there in the catacomb.
The boys stared. And they saw, 100 feet away, crouched down in a corner, trapped at the most distant part of the catacomb, a small figure that moved. The shoulders twitched, the head was bent and covered with trembling hands, and behind the hands the mouth wailed and was afraid.
Pipkin?
The crying stopped.
Is that you?
Whispered Tom. A long pause, a trembling insuck of breath, and then,
Yes.
Pip, for cry-eye, what are you doing there?
I don't know.
Come out?
I can't. I'm afraid. But Pip, if you stay there.
Tom paused. Pip, he thought, if you stay forever. You stay with all the silence and the lonely ones. You stand in the long line and tourists come and look at you and buy tickets to look at you some more.
You... Pip, said Ralph behind his mask. You gotta come out. I can't. They won't let me.
Pip sobbed. They? But they knew he meant the long line of mummies. In order to get out, he would have to run the gauntlet between the nightmares, the mysteries, the dreadful ones, the dyers, and the haunts.
They can't stop you, Pip.
Pip said,
Oh, yes, they can.
said echoes deep in the catacomb.
I'm afraid to come out.
And we're, said Ralph. Afraid to go in, thought everyone.
Maybe if we chose one brave one,
said Tom and stopped. for Pipkin was crying again, and all the mummies waiting, and the night so dark in the long tomb hall that you would sink right through the floor if you stepped on it, and never move again. The floor would seize your ankles with bony marble, and hold you until the freezing cold froze you into a dry dust statue forever.
Maybe if we went in a mob, all of us,
said Ralph, and they tried to move. Like a big spider with many legs, the boys tried to cram through the door. 1 step forward, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Wept Pipkin, at which sound they all fell upon themselves gibbering, and scrambled, yelling their dyers and frights back to the door. They heard an avalanche of heartbeats, bang pains in their chests.
Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? Him afraid to come? Us afraid to go? What? What?
Wailed Tom. Behind them, leaning against the wall, was Moundshroud, forgotten. A little candle flame of a smile flickered and went out among his teeth.
Here, boys. Save him with this.
Moundshroud reached into his dark cloak and brought forth a familiar white sugar candy skull, across the brow of which was written, Pipkin.
Save Pipkin, lads. Strike a bargain.
With who?
With me and others unnamed. Here, break this skull in 8 delicious bits, boys. Hand them round. P for you, Tom, and I for you, Ralph, and half of the other P for you, Hank, the other half for you. JJ and some of the K for you, boy, and some for you, and here's the I, the final N. Touch the sweet bits, lads. Listen, here's the dark deal. Do you truly want Pipkin to live?
Such a fury of protest burst forth at this. Moundshroud was fair driven back by it. The boys barked like dogs against his so much as questioning their need for Pip's survival.
There, there, he curried them. I see you mean it. Well, then will you each give 1 year from the end of your life, boys?
What?
Said Tom.
I mean it, boys. 1 year. 1 precious year from the far bundled candle end of your life. With 1 year apiece, you can ransom dead Pipkin.
A year?
The whisper, the murmur, the appalling sum of it ran among them. It was hard to grasp. A year so far away was no year at all. Boys of 11 or 12 cannot guess at men of 70. A year? A year? Why, sure, why not? Yes!
Think, boys, think. This is no idle bargain struck with nothing. I mean it. It is true and a fact. It is a grave condition you make, and a grave bargain you strike. 1 year each of you must promise to give. You won't miss the year now, of course, for you are very young. And I see by touching your minds you can't even guess the final situation. Only later, 50 years from this night, or 60 years from this dawn, when you are running low on time and dearly wish an extra day or so of fine weather and much joy, that's when Mr. D for Doom and Mr. B for Bones will show up on his bill to be paid. Or perhaps I will come, old Moundshroud himself, a friend to lads, and say, deliver. So a year promised must be a year given over. I'll say give, and you must give. What will that mean to each of you? It'll mean that those of you who might have lived to the 71 must die at 70. Some of you who might have lived to be 86 must cough up your ghost at 85. That's a great age. A year more or less doesn't sound like much. When the time comes, boys, you may regret, but you'll be able to say, this year, I spent well. I gave for Pip. I made a load of life for sweet Pipkin, the fairest apple that ever fell almost too early off the harvest tree. Some of you at 49 must cross life off at 48. Some at 55 must lay them down to forever sleep at 44. 54, sorry. Do you catch the whole thing intact now, boys? Do you add the figures? Is this arithmetic plain? A year. who will bid 365 entire days from his own soul to get old Pipkin back. Think, boys. Silence. Then speak.
There was a long, brooding silence of arithmetic students doing inward sums. And the sums were very fast indeed. There was no question. Though they knew that years from now they might doubt this dreadful haste, yet what else could they do? Only swim out from shore and save the drowning boy before he sank a last time into a frightening dust.
Me, said Tom. I'll give a year.
And me, said Ralph.
I'm in,
said Henry Hank.
And me,
said all the rest.
Do you know what you pledge, boys? You do love Pipkin, then?
Yes.
So be it, boys. Chew and eat, lads. Eat and chew.
They popped the sweet bits of candy skull in their mouths. They chewed. They ate.
Swallow darkness, boys. Give up your ear.
They swallowed hard, so hard that their eyes shone bright and their ears banged and their hearts beat. They felt something like a cage of birds let out of their chests and bodies and flying off, invisible. They saw but did not see the years they gave as gifts wing off around the world to settle somewhere in good payment for strange debts. They heard a yell, "Here!" and then, "Aye!" and then, "Come!" Bang, 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 the three words, the three sounds of shoes hitting stone. And along the hall and between the rows of mummies was leaned out to stop, but did not stop. Between the silent shrieks and screams, hell-bent, rushing, racing, flinging his feet, pumping his elbows, puffing his cheeks, shutting his eyes, snorting his nostrils, and bang, bang, banging on the floor with his up and down feet came Pipkin. Oh, how he ran! "Look at him come! Come on, Pip! Pip, you're halfway! Look at him race!" said everyone with sugar candy in their mouths, and the honorable name of Pipkin locked in their sweet teeth, with his savor in their jaws, and his fine name on their tongues. "Pip, Pip, Pipkin! Don't stop now, Pip! Don't look back! Don't fall down! Here he comes 3/4 of the way!" Pip ran the gauntlet. He was good and fine and fast and true. Between 100 waning mummies he ran without touching and did not look back, and then won the race. "Pip, you did it! You're safe!" But Pip kept running. Not only through the gauntlet of dead ones, but the gauntlet of warm, sweating, alive, yelling boys. He plowed them aside and raced up the stairs, gone. "Pip, it's all right! Come back!" They ran up the stairs after. "Where's he going, Mr. Moundshroud?"
"Well, I should imagine scared as he is," said Moundshroud. "Oh,
is Pip saved?"
"Let's go see, boys. Up!"
He spun about like a whirlwind. His arms, flung out, cut the air in slicing grabs and swoops. So fast he spun that he made a vacuum, a self-made storm. This cyclone, this huge upsuck of air, then seized the boys by ear, nose, elbow, and toe. Like so many leaves stripped from a tree, they yelled themselves into the sky. Moundshroud, raving, sank up. And they, if that is possible, sank and plummeted after. They hit the clouds like an explosion of gunshot. They followed Moundshroud like a flock of north-rushing birds heading home from their season. Before their season. The earth seemed to have give a turn from north to south. 1,000 small villages and towns spun under, alight with candles in tomb yards through all of Mexico, alight with candles flickering in pumpkins north of the border across Texas and then Oklahoma and Kansas and Iowa and at last Illinois and at last
"Home!" cried Tom. "There's the courthouse! There's my house! There's the Halloween tree!"
They swooped once around the courthouse and twice around 1,000 pumpkin-burning tree, and a final time around old Moundshroud's tall house with its many gables, many rooms, many gaping windows, high lightning rods, railings, attics, scrollworks, which leaned and groaned in the wind their passage made. Dust sifted out of the windows to greet them. Shades flapped in yet other windows like ancient tugs lolling to be diagnosed by wind-borne small doctors of strange medicines. Ghosts withered like white flowers, furling and unfurling in mouldered flags which fell to ruin even as they shot by. And the whole house circled was like all Halloween of ever, All of Halloween ever. Sorry. So cried Moundshroud, flapping his antique arms and webs and black silks as he landed on the roof and beckoned the boys to alight and pointed down through an immense sky window through all the levels of his mansion. The boys gathered round the skylight window and stared down a stairwell which opened out at various doors to various times and histories of men and skeletons and dreadful musics played on flute bones.
There it is, boys. Will you look? Do you see? There's our whole 10,000-year flight. There's our whole trip in one place, from caveman to Egyptian to Roman front porch to English harvest field to boneyard in Mexico.
Moundshroud lifted the vast plane of glass.
The stairway banister, boys. Write it down. Each to his own time, his own age, his own level. Leap off where your costume fits, where you think you and your disguise, your mask, belong. Get!
The boys leaped. They sprang down the stairwell to the top landing. Then one by one they popped onto the banister and slid, yelling down through all the floors. All the levels, all the ages of history kept within Moundshroud's incredible mansion. Roundabout down they whisked, they skidded, they shuffled on the waxed rail.
Vroom! Thud!
JJ in his ape-man costume landed in the basement. He glanced about. He saw cave paintings, dim smokes and fires, and shadows of hulking gorilla men. Saber-tooths burned their eyes at him from the cindered dark. Down around Rush went Ralph, the Egyptian mummified boy, bandaged for all ages, to land on the first floor where Egyptian hieroglyphs strutted in armies of symbol, with squadrons of ancient birds in skies and flocks of beast gods and scuttling golden beetles rolling dung balls down history. Crash! Hackles Nibley. Again, what the fuck kind of name is that? I'm just, who the hell names their kid Hackles? Also, who the hell has a last name like Nibley? Nibley is the name you give to a cat. So. Even he doesn't like it. Even he thinks it's stupid. His name is Tata. His name is so much better, though. I'm 100% biased because I'm his mother. I gave birth to him myself, obviously. His name is better than Nibley. There's no name. Any name is... I take that back. Not any name is better than Nibley. Nibley's a good name for a cat. It's not a good last name. Anyway, back to the point. With his scythe somehow still flashing in his hands, hit and almost rolled himself to mincemeat on the second floor where the shadow of Samhain, druid god of the dead, raised up his scythe upon a far chamber wall. Bang! George Smith, a Greek ghost? A Roman haunt? Landed on the third floor near tar-painted porches with glued old wandering spirits to the sill. Thud! Henry Hank the witch plopped down in the fourth landing amid witches leaping bonfires in English, French, German countrysides. I'm sorry. Tom Skelton. I forget. Hold on. Just really quick. Copyright 1972. This was written and drawn out in 1972. I want you to remember that. That skeleton is dabbing. That skeleton is widowy dabbing.
have to cover the picture up. I'm gonna keep on dying. Woo. Okay. 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 All right. I'm fine. I will be fine. I just can't look at the damning skeleton. Fred Fryer, the 5th floor took him in a heap, the beggar landing among sounds of beggars begging the country roads of Ireland, starving. Oh. Well, that killed the mood. Definitely that helps. Wally Bob, the gargoyle himself, flew and crashed on the 6th floor where walls sprouted elbows and limbs in lumps. Grimaces of fine gargoyles, humors, and glees. Until finally, Skeleton Tom skidded off the banister on the topmost floor to tumble and knock white candy skulls like 10 pins. In a dire game among the shadows of crouched women by mounds, with miniature skeleton brass bands playing mosquito tunes, while Moundshroud, far above, still on the roof, yelled down,
Well, boys, do you see? It's all one, yes?
Yes, someone murmured.
Always the same but different, eh? Every age, every time, day was always over. Night was always coming. And aren't you always afraid, Ape Man there, or you, Mummy, that the sun will never rise again?
Yes, more of them whispered. And they looked up through the levels of the great house and saw every age, every story, and all the men in history staring round about as the sun rose and set. Ape-Man trembled. Egyptians cried laments. Greeks and Romans paraded their dead. Summer fell dead. Winter put it in the grave. A billion voices wept. The wind of time shook the vast house. The windows rattled and broke like men's eyes into crystal tears. Then, with cries of delight, 10,000 times 1,000,000 men welcomed back bright summer suns which rose to burn each window with fire.
Do you see, lads? Think. People vanished forever. They died. Oh, Lord, they died. But came back in dreams. Those dreams were called ghosts and frightened men in every age.
Ah! Cried a billion voices from attics and basements. Shadows climbed walls like old films rerun in ancient theaters. Puffs of smoke lingered at doors with sad eyes and gibbering mouths.
Night and day, summer and winter, boys. Seed time and harvest, life and death. That's what Halloween is, all rolled up into one. Noon and midnight, being bored, boys. Rolling over, playing dead like dogs, lads. And getting up again, barking, racing through thousands of years of death each day and each night. Halloween, boys. Every night, every single night, dark and fearful, until at last you made it and hid in cities and towns and had some rest and could get your breath. And you begin to live longer and have more time and space out the deaths and put away fear, and at last have only special days in each year when you thought of dead and night and dawn, and spring and autumn and being born and being dead. And it all adds up. 4,000 years ago, 100 years ago, this year, one place or another, and the celebration's all the same.
The Feast of Samhain. The time of the dead ones. All Souls, All Saints. The Day of the Dead. El Dia de Muerte. All Hallows. Halloween.
The boys sent their frail voices up through the levels of time, from all the countries and all the ages, naming the holidays, which were the same.
Good, lads, good.
Far off, the town clock struck 11:15.
Almost midnight, boys. Halloween's almost over.
But, cried Tom, what about Pipkin? We followed him through history, burying him, digging him up, walking him in parades, crying him in wakes. Is he or isn't he alive?
Yeah, did we save him? Said everyone.
Did you indeed?
Moundshroud stared. They stared with him across the ravine to a building where lights were going out.
That's his hospital, boys. But check his house. The final knock of the night. The last grand trick-or-treat. Go ask for final answers. Mr. Marley, see them out.
Marley? Huh. Oh, Yeah, I forgot about Marley. Huh. The Marley knocker on the door gaped its bandaged jaw and whistled them farewell as the boys slid down the banisters and raced for the door. They were stopped by a final shout from Moundshroud.
Well, boys, which was it? Tonight with me? Trick or treat?
The boys took a vast breath, held it, burst it out. Gosh, Mr. Moundshroud, both! Rap went the Marley knocker. Slam went the door. The boys were gone running down through the ravine and up along the street, gasping hot gusts of air, their masks falling to be trampled until at last they stopped on Pipkin's sidewalk and looked at the far hospital and back at Pipkin's front door. You go, Tom. You. And Tom slowly edged up to the house and put his front foot on the front step, and then the second step up and approached the door, afraid to knock. Afraid to find the final answer about dear Pipkin. Pipkin dead? Pipkin in a last funeral? Pipkin gone forever? No! He tapped at the door. The boys waited on the sidewalk. The door opened. Tom went in. There was a long moment of the boys on the sidewalk standing cold and letting the wind freeze their most awful thoughts. Well? They yelled silently in at the house. The shut door, the dark windows. Well, what? And then at last the door opened again, and Tom came out and stood on the porch not knowing where he was. Then Tom looked up and saw his friends waiting for him a million miles off. Tom leaped off the porch yelling, "Oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh!" He ran along the sidewalk shrieking, "He's okay, he's all right, he's okay! Pipkin's in the hospital, took his appendix out at 9 tonight. Got in just in time. Doctor says it's great." Pipkin. Hospital? Great? The air jumped out as if each had been punched in the stomach. Then the air went in and out again in a great rave, a yell, a ragged shout of triumph. "Pipkin! Oh, Pipkin! Pip!" And the boys stood on Pipkin's lawn on the sidewalk in front of Pipkin's porch and house and looked with numb curiosity at each other as their smiles spread and their eyes watered and they yelled and the happy tears ran down their cheeks. "Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy," said Tom, exhausted and weeping with happiness. "You can say that again," said someone, and they all said it again. And they all stood there and had a fine, happy cry. And since the whole night was turning soupy with tears, Tom looked around and revved them up. "Look at Pipkin's house! Don't it look awful? Tell you what we do." And they came back and each came back carrying a lit pumpkin and lined them up on Pipkin's porch rail where they smiled outrageous smiles to wait for Pipkin to come home. And they stood on the lawn and looked at the lovely sight of all those smiles. Their costumes tattered upon their arms and shoulders and legs, and the grease paint dripped and running down their faces. And a great wondrous happy tiredness gathered in their eyelids and arms and feet, but not wanting to go yet. And the town clock struck midnight. Gung! And gunging again to the final count of 12. And Halloween was over. And all about the town, doors were slamming and lights going out. The boys began to drift, saying night and night and night again. And some good night, but most night. Yes, night. And the lawn was empty. Pardon me. But Pipkin's porch was just full of candle illumination and warmth and baked pumpkin smell. And ghost and mummy and skeleton and witch and all the rest were back at their homes, on their own porches, and each turned to look at the town and remember this special night they would never in all their lives ever forget. And they looked across the town at one another's porches, but especially on and over across the ravine to that great house where at the very top Mr. Moundshroud stood on his spike-railinged roof. The boys waved, each from his own porch. The smoke curling out of the high Moundshroud Gothic chimney fluttered, motioned, waved back. And still more doors were slamming to lock all around town, and with each slam, one more pumpkin, and then another, and another, and another on the huge Halloween tree snuffed out. By the dozens, by the hundreds, by the thousands, doors banged, pumpkins went blind, snuffed candles smoked delicious smokes. The witch hesitated, went in, shut the door. A witch-faced pumpkin on the tree went dark. The mummy stepped into his house and shut his door. A pumpkin with the face of a mummy extinguished its light. And finally, the last boy in all the town remaining alone on his veranda, Tom Skelton, with his skull and bones hating to go in, wanting to wring the last dear drop from his favorite holiday in all the year. The same Halloween for me lasts from the 31st to November 7th, and that is how it should be. Halloween should be at least 8 days, is what I think. Yes. Anybody with me on that in the wherever the fuck you're watching this? Tell me if you think Halloween should be a week long, because there is too much of a separation between Halloween, the end, and then all of a sudden we're celebrating Thanksgiving, even though it doesn't happen until the fucking 23rd. Agree with me, pretty please. Agree with me, pretty please. He sent his thoughts on the night air toward the strange house beyond the ravine. Mr. Mountroud, who are you? No, sorry. Mr. Mountroud, who are you? And Mountroud, way up there on the roof, sent his thoughts back.
I think you know, boy. I think you know.
Is he Mountroud? Is Mountroud him? Does he become Mountroud? That's my headcanon. My headcanon is Tom loves Halloween so much that when he finally dies, he becomes Mountroud. That's what I think. That's why he took Pippin. He took Pippin specifically because it's like a time loop thing, right? Where he had to go back in time to make sure that he experienced this, to make sure he becomes Mountroud and is Mountroud for other people. It's a whole. Not the point. We have 3 more pages.
Will we meet again, Mr. Mountroud?
Many years from now, yes. I'll come for you.
And a last thought from Tom.
Oh, Mr. Mountroud, will we ever stop being afraid of nights and death?
And the thought returned.
When you reach for the stars, boys, yes, and live there forever. All the fears will go, and death himself will die.
Tom listened, heard, and waved quietly. Mr. Mountroud, far off, lifted his hand. Click. Tom's front door went shut. His pumpkin like a skull on the vast tree sneezed and went dark. Of course it sneezed. Just The wind stirred the great Halloween tree, which was now empty of all light, save one pumpkin at the very top. A pumpkin with Mr. Mountroud's eyes and face. At the top of the house, Mr. Mountroud leaned out, took a breath, blew. His candle in his pumpkin head on the tree fluttered, died. Miraculously, smoke curled out of his own mouth, his nose, his eyes, his ears, as if his soul had been extinguished within his lungs at the very moment the sweet pumpkin gave up its incensed ghost. He sank down into the house. The roof trapdoor closed. The wind came by. It rocked all the dark, smoking pumpkins on the vast and beautiful Halloween tree. The wind seized 1,000 dark leaves and blew them away up over the sky and down over the earth toward the sun that must surely rise. Like the town, the tree turned off its embers, smiles, and slept. At 2 a.m, the wind came back for more leaves.
This is Mr. Mountroud.
It's the end of the book, by the way. Ta-da! We made it! We did it! It's the end of the book! And now we can pick something else. I've already picked something else. We're gonna go back and forth between Goosebumps and that Sloane Outlaw disaster. I have a feeling that's gonna be a particularly fun read. And by fun, I mean merciless mocking. Which is why I will not tell you the author, because we're making fun of the book, not the author. Authors are important. Authors are learning. Authors do a very good job. They try their best. We're making fun of the book itself. We will be making fun of the book, not the author. That's not the vibe I want on my fucking stream, on my channel, because all of these go onto my YouTube channel. That's not the energy we're bringing. We are making fun of the dumb, stupid boy called Sloane Outlaw, because that's a dumb fucking name. Okay. This is Mountroud. Ta-da. This is the guy. This is the dude. Woo! Look at him, he all spooky. I don't know about y'all. But I was under the impression that he had like a skeleton face. You know? I was under the impression that he was like a skeleton man, almost like Jack Skellington, but like with more detail. Like, you know, like a spookier version of Jack Skellington, because Jack Skellington is definitely like cartoonified. You know what I mean? He's cartoonified. I was picturing a more intense version, you know, like how mummies have that, like they're super gaunt and their skin is all like stretched out. I was picturing that, but skeleton. I was also picturing a funky hat for some reason. I don't know. I was picturing a hat. He's not wearing a hat. Were you picturing a hat? Let me know in the comments if you were picturing a hat, because I was definitely picturing a hat. Anyway, one of these two will be. One of these two will be the Okay, so the Goosebumps series, let's see, when did they do this? They redid the cover art. This was printed in 1992, but they redid the cover art a few years ago, and I didn't know. I didn't know they redid the cover art. I much prefer the original cover art because I'm a nostalgic bitch. This is the newer cover art. I don't know when they did this, or if my library had a specific set of Goosebumps, and there's always been two versions, but I prefer the old cover art. So I think what we're gonna do, yeah, because a lot of these have been not revisited, rebooted. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. They've been categorized into a new series called Goosebumps Horrorland. So I'll probably visit those at some point. I think I want to start with Monster Blood, because that is I think that's one of the very first one that I read, if not the first. Because I know the other one, it was Monster Mask, Ghost Next Door, and Monster Blood. The first three that I read. Maybe Ghost Next Door was the first. I don't know, but Say Cheese and Die definitely came later in the rotation. I was a little bit older. One of these was the first one, so I think I'll start with Monster Blood. Also, the thing in the basement. I think... I don't remember, and I can't go back in time and ask myself. So Monster Blood, we're starting with Monster Blood because I couldn't find the other two. If I find the other two, it's going to have to be on, I'm going to have to go to, a used bookstore or, a website or something. I do not want to go to Amazon. I hate having to use Amazon. It's bullshit and stupid. I have, and it makes me cringe when I do, because there are some things that I've looked for and haven't been able to find except on stupid fucking Amazon. So, Amazon is a last fucking resort. So I will try to get as many of the Goosebumps series as I can, because honestly, I want to read them again myself. That is also why I bought the Princess Diaries books again. And then I started rereading them, and I was like, "Ooh, girl, this was a journey that you took yourself on. You decided to read this fucking book again." And it's like, yes, it's nostalgia, but oh God, we knew nothing. Not a thought in our goddamn brain. Actually, a lot of thoughts in the goddamn brain. Too many thoughts in the goddamn brain at one time, because that's the ADD. That's the autism. They combine and form super thought. I form super thought. T-H-O-T. Ha. Ranting over. Monster Blood next time. Going back and forth between Monster Blood and whatever that book is called with the Sloan Outlaw. That one is going to be a not safe for work stream because it is a romance novel. I don't know exactly how romantic it gets. It might be like a contemporary, your grandma reads this kind of romance, or it might be a Immortals After Dark situation. Which I do love that series. I am not going to read that series here. That's... If I ever get a Patreon, it'll be a Patreon exclusive, but I don't think I'm going to be getting a Patreon at any time soon. So, all right.
Jesus!
I'm going to go eat a sandwich or something. And I hope you enjoyed this. If you're watching this on YouTube, please consider subscribing. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can follow me here on Twitch and see this shit live and react in real time. And I love seeing people in the comments just pop off on things that I haven't popped off on. That's my favorite. My favorite is when the story time becomes a discussion time. Love that shit. Love it. Love it. I love seeing people's reactions. That's my favorite thing in the whole entire world. So, enjoy the rest of your snowing. I don't know if it's snowing where you are. It might not be. It might be. You might be stuck in your house, in which case it's a great time to hang out with me. Okay, bye.